You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the October 1st, 2024 special council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Today's meeting begins with a public hearing of objections to Heritage Conservation Bylaw 24-04. 8 organizations will present to council seeking financial support from the town. Charlotte Dial-A-Ride, the Charlotte County Archives, Katie's Cove Incorporated, St. Croix Blades Speed Skating, Vincent Massey Elementary School, Sunbury Shores, St. Andrews Pickleball, and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Charlotte County. Now let's join council at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Council Chambers.
Call the meeting of the Town of St. Andrews Special Council meeting for Tuesday, October the 1st, 2024. That's the wrong one. I'm reading the wrong, 6:45. It's this one, sorry. Put them in the wrong order.
There you go.
Ah, I'm saved by the mayor. We're just opening your worship. Yeah. So it's Tuesday, October the 1st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex in the council chambers. Are you ready to?
Oh, keep going.
Oh, okay. So the first thing is the record of attendance, and I noticed that Councillor Neal and Councillor Blanchard are not with us. Are they online? No. So they're not with us yet. And the mayor just arrived, so that's great. The second thing, and all the other councillors are here and staff. The second thing is the land recognition of the Beskoto-Makati Nation. So we welcome and we recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Beskoto-Makati people. Approval of agenda is the third thing. So I guess we need, the motion is that the agenda for the 24-1001 public hearing of objections to bylaw number 24-04, Heritage Conservation Bylaw, be approved as presented. So
recording in progress.
First and second. So Councillor Bennett, seconder, Councillor Harlan.
Oh, we should give it. I never get to second.
Oh, the mayor is seconding. We're going to give it to Mayor Henderson.
First one this year.
Any other additions or questions? Okay. So all those in favor of accepting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? So that's carried. And disclosure of the conflict of interest? I don't see any hands flying up, so I guess there's none. And now we're on the presentations. Are you ready to take over?
I'm ready, yeah. Thank you.
You're
All
welcome.
right. So
Thank you very much.
To the main purpose of the agenda this evening in the first meeting, it's bylaw number 24-04, a heritage conservation bylaw, public hearing of objections, EBC 240902. Before we give anyone from the public an opportunity to come up and speak either in opposition or express concern or in support of this bylaw, I'd ask that you state your name and your address. And as well, just in the essence of time, we'll ask you to limit your comments. And I think the procedural bylaw says under 10 minutes. Is that correct, Mr. Knopper? So because we do have another meeting after this evening, we will stick to that. Mr. Knopper, if you just want to give them a 1 minute more warning if anyone needs to. And again, this is a hearing of objections. It is to hear from the public. It's not to hear from council. So if you do have any questions, you can submit them after the fact. And if anyone is watching this either on Facebook or Zoom, whatever you submit even after the fact, right until we go through third reading and beyond, it does get circulated through council. So just if you do miss this and catch it after, it does not mean that you cannot provide an opinion on the matter. So at this particular time, I will see, is anyone online, Mr. Knopper?
Yes, we have one online.
Do you want
to start with them?
See if anyone would like to start online.
Okay. Mr. Kelly, if you have any comments, questions, concerns regarding the heritage bylaw, you have your chance to speak to council now. Be asked to unmute if you have any comments.
Excuse me. Thank you very much, Paul. No, I'm, as you know, a member of the Heritage Bylaw Committee, so I'm here to listen to what the public has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Knopper. And I do know that we did have a few letters from the public which you have circulated to council, and I know that several councilors have talked to me about it. So would anyone that is in the audience tonight like to speak in regards to this?
Your Worship, sorry, you probably should. You won't have to go through the letters and name, but you probably should, for the record, indicate who has corresponded.
Do we normally do that, though? Because sometimes we've had dozens and dozens of letters, yeah? Okay.
Up to you.
All right, so in this package, we do have one from Jim Creighton, which is enclosed, Mark Blaugrave, Lisa Caskey, Lee spent some time on hers. Perfect. Well, we'll come to that in just a moment. That's everybody that is that has written in advance. So at this particular time, the mic is open. So if anyone would like to come before council and provide some feedback, it's more than welcome to. So the mic is open.
Ms. Sokaski, all your materials that were provided to council.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you now have multiple copies of what I'm going to present tonight. I'm Lee Sokaski, 124 William Street, Charles Horsnell House, built in 1903, and I was just working on it today. I know all sorts of things about character-defining elements and maintaining old structures. I'm probably one of the greatest advocates of a heritage bylaw this town has ever seen in the last number of years. I've spent a lot of time on it, and I will continue to do that whenever I have the opportunity. That said, I'm a strong advocate of us having a heritage bylaw, but I am speaking in objection to the text as written now. As there are flaws in that, legal, technical, and functional flaws that need to be fixed before it's ready for first reading. I'd hoped those would have been done sooner, and the Heritage Board is aware of those. So I've written out for you what I think now are the most critical ones. They're all easy fixes. In fact, I've even provided the wording for them. It could be done very quickly, but they are critical to have that document be legal and functional. So I hope you'll get to that, and I'd be happy to help anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and council at the readings do have the opportunity to make those amendments. It's just for the public hearing objections, we wanted to be consistent with what was presented in the public presentations, but thank you very much. We do have those changes. Anyone else? One more call. Anyone else in the audience like to speak in regards to this hearing of objections? All right then. So we do not need question period since it was a hearing of objections. So I will be looking at 6:42 p.m. to adjourn this first meeting. Could I have a mover? I've got Deputy Mayor Akji and seconded by Councillor Gumashel. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. That's everybody. We are adjourned, and we'll start the next meeting in about 3 minutes. All right, everyone, let's call to order this special council meeting. Here we are.
Recording
the
in progress.
2025 budget meeting for the town of St. Andrews, October 1st, 6:45 p.m., live at the council chambers at the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex. We're also airing this meeting through Zoom and Facebook. If anyone has any questions pertaining to tonight's agenda and you're not here in person, you can submit them at pnopper@townofstandrews.ca. So recording of attendance, I note that Councillor Neal and Councillor Blanchard isn't online, is he? I missed the original call, is he? No, so just two members not in attendance this evening. And I do want to recognize that we are on the unceded traditional territory of the Beskoto-Magadi people. Approval of the agenda, I'll be looking for a mover to approve the agenda. I've got Councillor Heenan and Councillor Harland. Is there any changes to the agenda? It is mainly just presentations this evening, but I want to make sure. Okay, all in favor of approving this agenda, please signify by saying aye. That is everybody. This agenda has been approved. And disclosure of conflict of interest. Deputy Mayor Akji, I assume it is going to be consistent with the dial-a-ride that you've declared in the past. Thank you very much. So I think that's the first one. So you'll get a nice little break to kick off the meeting. Anyone else? All right, then. So we will jump right into the presentations. I'll give the deputy mayor a moment to leave, but the first one, they're all community assistant grant presentations as we establish the budget for 2025. The first is the president of the Charlotte County Alternative Transportation, Sharon McGlattery. So the microphone is yours, and Deputy Mayor Akaji has left the room just for the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm actually the chair of the board of directors.
We'll give you both titles.
There's got to be more. The green light actually has to be lit up. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you very much for inviting us to make a presentation here today. This is the first year we've actually gone over and above a $3,000 ask, and basically tonight I just want to explain why. And a bit of background, we started full operations in 2006 with about 1,800 rides. This has grown exponentially to around 6,000 to 7,000 rides a year pre-COVID. And as of 2023, we were over 8,000 rides, having increased by about 3,000 rides then. Many of these, all these rides are done by volunteer drivers, and our volunteer cadre has not increased throughout most of this period. It's around 23 to 27 drivers, about 5 of which do the bulk of the driving, and that is over 1,000 drives a year each, racking up a tremendous amount of hours. And many of these are going to the St. John Regional, St. Joe's, and other medical appointments in St. John, so they really put a ton of mileage on their personal vehicle odometers. And last year, between 2022 and 2023, we increased by 3,000 drive requests. So our busiest season was over 8,000 drives, and this year we're at 7,000, and it's only September. So that's just a snapshot of our backdrop. And the reason we are asking for support is the pressure on dispatch to match all these drive requests with a limited number of drivers has grown equally exponentially to the point that we couldn't do it and do all these drives with one dispatcher. So in 2022, late 2022, or 2023, we managed to get a part-time driver on under work New Brunswick. And recognizing that she was fully strapped with us as well, we expanded her to full-time over the winter of 2023 and into 2024, based on donations from a couple of concerned people that work with Dial-A-Ride. They personally payrolled her for a few months until we were fortunate enough to get money from the Christopher Foundation that will carry her through to the end of the year. So we're coming to all 3 town councils to ask for $3,500 towards her salary, each municipality, which would cover about half of it, and then we would go out and look for funding and grants as we did before to keep her on. The bottom line for this is if we lose her, we can't maintain the service we're currently providing to the ridership. The other part of the request is $1,500, which makes it up to the $5,000 we're asking for our wheelchair van to help us support the costs associated with keeping it safe and on the road. It came to us third hand. It's a 2011 Mobility Ventures vehicle with a power-assisted ramp for wheelchairs, including motorized wheelchairs, which we could never carry before. From 2005 to 2021, we manhandled people out of their wheelchairs into our personal vehicles and collapsed the wheelchairs in the back of our cars. So no one can do that with a motorized wheelchair. So the MV1 was great, but we knew as a 2011 it would bring issues, and it has. I've had an interesting ride back on Cleghorns from St. Joe's and St. John because the starter went. We managed to deal with clients through the ingenuity of dispatch. But the costs for maintenance of this old vehicle have gone up from about $3,000 in 2022 to $9,000 in 2023. And again, we're hoping a lot of that was tires and replacement stuff, but we just know that we need to keep it on the road as best we can. We do have a plan in place working with the Regional Service Commission, who have put in an application to the Rural Transportation Support Fund, federal fund, to get 4 more wheelchair flexible buses that can be driven by normal drivers like our volunteers. The province would own, insure, and maintain them, which currently are costs we're bearing, and then we could rent from them. And so we're seeing that as the future, but in the interim, we have to keep our MV1 on the road. And that's it. There's some handouts here, and I did mention a whole bunch of statistics, but I provided a graph because I'm a scientist, and that's all I have.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and we will open it up for council for any questions. And just to set up this presentation and the rest of them, and anyone watching this meeting at home, the purpose of this, because the requests are a little higher than the normal assistance grants, we've asked for everyone to come in and make a presentation. And to put it in perspective, last year we had about $15,000 for smaller, I guess you could say, assistance grants, and we did a couple presentations and awarded an extra $12,000 for a total of $27,000. And the request that came in out of these 8 presentations is in excess of $80,000, so council's going to have some work to do here. So I just wanted to say before we open up to questions is thank you everything that Dial a Ride does on behalf of all of your volunteers in your organization. We have a major transportation gap here in Charlotte County. Although, you know, we've got Carry Ride Share, that is very prohibitive if you are on a fixed budget and you've got to leave the community. It's great from kind of going to the Algonquin downtown, $7.50 each way, but if you get on the highway, it adds up very quickly. And with the gaps that we have with no bus system and things like that, it really speaks to the volume of the importance of what you do. And I do know, just for information sharing, that the Regional Service Commission is looking for money from all of the different municipalities for their contribution in order to go to the provincial government in order to obtain funding to get a bus back in the region, but that's not a guarantee, and that's not going to happen next month, right? So, council, any questions for anyone around the table? I think everyone's fairly familiar. Councillor Gumichel?
Just a quick question. Thanks for all your hard work. I see half the rides are for employment, and then under your revenue, $50,000 revenue CIN. I presume that's federal.
Community Inclusion Network.
Is that a federal?
I think so. Yeah.
Community Inclusion Network. Okay. Thank you. I'll Google it.
And that it was a very interesting trend we noticed through COVID is the change in priority for health appointments to getting to work and getting to college and getting to education. So.
And if you can't speak about it right now, but I understand that you're almost being mandated to switch the dispatch system, and you get money from the provincial government to do that, but the money just basically is enough to cover the dispatch that you already had your own system going. Like, how does that, just for councils, with what you can and can't say?
Yeah. It's a complicated situation now that all volunteer driver organizations are being presented with a new dispatch system that would be province-wide. We're one of 2 organizations that don't actually report to the Regional Service Commission, so we're an independent body. And also because we're the oldest, we have an established dispatch system that works with us. A lot of our stuff cannot be equated to Uber because we're actually matching drivers to rider needs and all the complexities that involves. So we are in discussions now on how that's rolling out for us. But the idea is to have sort of a province-wide universal dispatch system. And we just need to see how that will work for all the different kinds of operations that the volunteer transportation, there's 12 of us and 2 of us are independent.
Sounds good. I know that Raymond Funk's probably working closely with you on this, but if you need any lobbying from the Regional Service Commission, all of the mayors, from my understanding is if you don't do this system, then you might lose the grant. So it's like,
it's a
if you want a grant, it's only for this reason, for a service you don't need. And if you don't, then they're not going to give you the money, which really doesn't make sense if it could be used to help pay for a wheelchair. Like, it's handcuffing you on something that you could spend the money better at is on the outside, and I am on the outside, but that's just what, based on my conversations, what I've picked up. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong.
We're getting strong support from Raymond and Hollis on this to work our way through it, so we aren't negatively impacted by the discussion.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot with that question. Any other member of council? Councillor Gumichel.
Google quickly tells me that the Community Inclusion Network is a provincial.
Thank you.
So I'm just wondering, sorry, just wondering if there's, since so much of it so much of the rides are for manpower, for what they used to call manpower. There's no federal revenue for.
The Community Inclusion Network, which evolved, I believe, into ESIC, is actually for like the vocational center, the community social services, where they go to jobs. They're described as jobs, and it is work for them. But there are a lot of regular drives, 5 days a week, St. Stephen, St. George, just getting the people actually even from the more rural areas to those vocational centers.
The vocational centers like the one
In St. George, in St. Stephen.
Okay.
And,
I follow you, sorry,
yeah.
I wasn't following.
It was-
Thank you very much for all your hard work. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you very much. We will be getting back fairly quickly at the next budget meeting. However, we are still waiting for information from the province of New Brunswick over what our tax base grew, so we can only go so far in this process until they give us the information we need, because we need to see the big picture, right? So,
Yeah.
but thank you very much for being here.
Understood, thank you.
Sorry.
The next presentation is Sandy Omson, and that she's the chairperson of the Charlotte County Archives, and it is their community assistance grant presentation. The floor is yours.
Okay, Paul, so you're in control of the presentation. While he's looking for that first slide, councillors and Mayor Henderson, thank you for having me, and good evening. I am Sandy Omson. I'm currently chair of the board, and I know you're used to seeing Franklin here, but he's presently passed the baton to me, and I'm working hard and following in his footsteps. I would also like to take a moment to thank the town, who is our landlord, for really excellent support of the Charlotte County Archives building and the old jail. It's, as you know, almost 200 years old, and I would really like to pay a compliment to the maintenance department for doing a great job at being very responsive and very easy to work with in maintaining the building. You know, it's old and things happen, and they keep it in good form, and the ground's in good form. So this is an opportunity to let you know what a great job they've been doing. So Paul, so we'll need a bit of eye contact, because I'll tell you when I'm ready to move, okay? So the mission of the Charlotte County Archives is to collect, preserve, and conserve through archival best practices the preeminent collection of significant documents relating to the evolving history and culture of Charlotte County. And also, Paul, we do actively engage the public through research, education, and outreach. Hang on. So as you can see, we sometimes see children's groups, school groups. On the summer, we had an excellent opportunity to welcome a camp group, and Mervyn contacted us, and we set up a tour for them. They had a great time. We do provide tours of the old jail and the courthouse, and I just want to say here that I realize I'm talking about the courthouse, and I realize that the courthouse is presently under review. But as long as the courthouse is available and they're for the public, we will continue to offer those tours. But we realize that in the future, that situation may change. Just as a quick to throw this number out, and I'll come back to it, this past summer, overall, over the summer, as well as up until probably 2 days ago, we have seen over 2,300 tourists come through for tours and also for archival research. We are a volunteer-run, not-for-profit corporation entirely dependent on raising funds to maintain our operations. This is a photo at the one of the Canada Day events where we always set up a table. We do a lot of outreach, and this is when we meet up with a lot of tourists, and we will send them off to the old jail. You know, have you seen the jail? You know, it's over 200 years old, and they get pretty excited, and we get a lot of traffic. We also, at that point, are available to answer questions from the public, tourists, and sometimes new residents who come and say, you know, I just moved here and I bought this old building or this house or this business, and I want to come and do some research. So it's a great opportunity for outreach, which we do a lot of. Our office, archival vault, and research facilities are located in the old county jail beside the county courthouse, overlooking the beautiful common. And as you know, both buildings are architectural icons and have been promoted as historic attractions by the town and the province for decades. So we are in a position that we are an archives for the county, but we are also in a position that we are offering tourism services for the town throughout the summer season and throughout the shoulder season. So this request is strictly for the tourism services that we are providing specifically for the town. Just to say also that we have reached out for financial support for our archiving services to the RSC. We are hopeful we will receive some support. We haven't had any specific information yet, but that's strictly for archival support. Previous to reaching out to the archives, we have had some support outside of St. Andrews from some towns in Charlotte County that have supported us, but again, that's for archival support, which our funding by and large comes from community fundraising. But today what we're talking strictly about is funding to support the tourism services in the shoulder season throughout the summer, which will end now in a couple of weeks. So we provide guided tours of the Old County Jail and the courthouse, ghost walks, and at times we're contacted by organizations who would like to come and do paranormal investigations. Is there really a ghost in the jail? Some might say yes, some might say no. It's great fun, and it's a small source of income. It's not such a bad thing. So moving on, we get a tremendous number of tourists. Over the past summer, in particular, we had 2,169 tourists, with July being exceptionally busy. Overall, from the whole season, we have seen, from the summer, we've seen a 13.5% increase from last summer. That's fairly significant. It was very busy. And I want to add that this past summer, we had 2 summer students because we only had funding for 2 summer students. We do best when we have funding for 3. This is the first summer in some time that we didn't get as much funding as we have had in the past from the grants that we go after both federally and provincially. But all you can do is ask. We write the grants, we ask for funding, we get what we get, and we work very hard to make it last as long as we can. While I'm on this slide where you can see the courthouse, and yes, that is me, I think whoever took the pictures liked to include me as much as he possibly could, which, there I am. And you can tell it's over COVID. But what I want to mention here is, as a small aside, we're thankful that the courthouse has washroom facilities because we do have a lot of public walking through. What I do want to add is that there is no provision for cleaning of the washroom facilities from the town's perspective at this point in time. So we do need to make sure that we keep the washrooms clean, and I am going to say I have cleaned it myself. So just a little plug that when you are looking at the cleaning of all the washroom facilities in the town, and I know it's another whole separate issue, don't forget about the washroom facilities at the county courthouse. It's important, and it's what does that say about how the town prides itself on their facilities. So we can move on. Let's take a look at the actual costs this past summer. This is 2024, our summer tourism account. We did receive funding from federal and provincial grants, as well as support from the town last year. When we made application, we received $4,000 last year. We did receive funding in the amount of $10,120 from Canada Summer Jobs, Young Canada Works, and New Brunswick Summer Employment, but it's never 100%. They cover 75% to 90% of wages, and we have to come up with the shortfall in between. Last summer, with the hiring of 2 students, which is the funding we had enough for, we were fortunate in the sense that with the total grants reaching $14,120, our copay was $1,285. But where does that money come from? It comes from community donations and our fundraising, which will begin shortly. I'm sure some of you will hear about our fundraising appeal, which our donors think that they're funding archival work on archival support. By the way, in the picture, this is Anna Krentz, who is our full-time archives manager. So it's really a challenge for us. We are in a position that we are in a historic building. We are in archives, but we are in a historic building. You know the phrase, if you build it, they will come. They come, as I've mentioned in our tourist stats. So we need to provide the tours. We like to provide the tours. We're happy to do it. But funding is where our glitch is. And so for that reason, we look to the town to cover the shortfall of what we don't receive through grants. Included in our cost is the cost for Anna to train, the cost of her time to train, and the balance of wages that are not covered by grants. So that has to come from our individual donations. So again, this is strictly for tourism services that we're asking the town. We asked the town to cover for the balance, and this is the summary from the last year, where again, we only had funding for 2 students. If we move on to 2025, this is what we're looking at, and these are real estimations because we will apply for grants. The wage cost estimated, that's for asking for 3 students, $24,415. We do include the cost of promotional materials because we have brochures that we print and we distribute throughout the town. There is the cost of training and supervision. Total costs, $28,425. Our estimation of what we'll receive in government grants, the balance remaining is essentially what we're asking the town to cover, support us with, the $7,900. Thank you. Moving on to the next one. It was suggested that we take a look at what does it look like over a 5-year time period based on an annual inflation rate of 3%. If you look at the very bottom line, where this, for the 2025 tourist season, we are asking for $7,900. But if you look all the way across the bottom, moving across with a 3% inflation rate, over time, $8,100, $8,400, $8,600, $8,900. That's the shortfall that we will have to cover. So taking a look at the big picture, we're always in the same scenario because we need the summer students to be able to provide the tours. We only get so much funding. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for the presentation. And I know I've been in the Archives Courthouse several times over the last year, including, I'm surprised Mr. Knopper's even here because I think the breakout room had him in there for quite a while, if I recall. But Council, any questions regarding this presentation? Councillor Gumashall.
Thank you for your presentation. Continuing in a theme, I asked the Dial Ride, since they were doing so much work with employment, if they had any federal requests in, and it'd be the same question for the archives, since you're doing such good work with regard to heritage, and that's a federal department, and we have an MP living right here in town who is quite fond and favorable of heritage. Are there any, is there any federal funding that the archives has asked for or spoken with our MP?
So, yes. The MP is quite aware that we ask for federal funding for Young Canada Works and Canada Summer Jobs. In fact, when we spoke with him briefly over the summer, he was surprised to hear that we didn't get as much as we had asked for. Those two are federal. NB, summer employment is the provincial grant. But there's different silos, so when you're looking for summer employment, it's Young Canada Works and Canada Summer Jobs. So yes, we go after that money. And in the package that you would have received, it outlines those particular grants that we go after. We go after what's ever out there. When it comes to archiving work, there are other grants through other silos to support grants for archiving work and special projects.
So any federal monies to help maintain the building and those sorts of things?
We have not found grants that support us in that fashion.
So no, thank you very much.
The grants for the building would be probably on us as we own the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So they're more looking for operations, capital projects, whether it be the courthouse or the jail, typically fall on the municipality, right?
May I add one final thought? When we're asking for the $8,900, that's the shortfall that we see, $7,900, excuse me, that's the shortfall that we see for 2025. As compared to the funds that I know comes out of the town's budget for other town locations such as the Sheriff Andrews and Ross Museum, we think we're giving you a pretty good deal, if I may say, because we go after as much grant funding as we can find. It's the shortfall that we would like support for, because that's coming out of community funding, community donations that are targeted for the archives.
Councillor Ware.
I understand our new law firm in town recently completed a campaign to raise funds for your organization. Did they put any conditions on what that money was for? Whether it was-
They did not. In that case, it was Charlotte County Archives donation to the tune of $7,500,
Yeah.
which was very generous. I guess the perspective that we operate from is donations are coming to the archives. We don't, when we do our fundraising campaign, we're making the pitch. You're supporting our archives so that we can maintain a full-time archives manager. Did they offer any particular conditions? No, but in our perspective, it's for Charlotte County Archives, not for the tours that you're providing in the summer. But I understand your question.
Councilor
Thank you.
Harwood.
Thank you, Sandy. Great presentation. Just wondering, just give me, help me understand how long this has been going on. So how long has Charlotte County Archives been providing the summer tours?
I have to look at my
Even
colleagues.
even a guesstimate?
6, 7 years?
Deputy Mayor would answer that.
It's
More than
over,
that,
it's
about
over that.
decade at least.
I was doing it when I was in high school, so.
Okay, a long time, long before my time, a long time. Not a long time for you.
Reel it in.
There goes one vote.
I'm ancient.
So,
But,
for the last 50 years, we in this town have provided some kind of tours for the jail and the courthouse. Well, since we inherited the courthouse.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Spear.
Hi, Sandy. Thanks. Just have 2 or 3 questions. So, of course, New Brunswick has their own archives bureau. Is there any interaction or hopefully funding that comes from the New Brunswick archives? Do they assist in any way, or do they just provide advice and then walk away? Or
There is, I don't have the names of the grants off the top of my head, but there is support being provided, but it is for archival projects. When you apply for grants, you say, I want to do a project on such and so. This is the hours that it's going to take. This is what we're going to accomplish. And at times, we were able to hire part-time staff to support being able to complete that project. But again, that's what I meant when there's tourism and then there's archiving.
Okay. We've been seeing a tremendous amount of bus tours coming from St. John as their cruise ship business grows. It brings lots, I'm estimating probably a bus load per passenger ship that comes in. From our perspective, Paul and I will sit at town hall, and sometimes they'll come at the front street, drop them off, and they just kind of wander. And with the courthouse and jail being kind of out of the way a little bit, as much as 3 or 4 blocks can be out of the way. Have you seen much traffic as that? And is there an opportunity to work together and maybe get a little revenue on organized tours through them?
Okay, there's a yes and, okay. We frequently do have tour companies call ahead and book a tour. So yes, that's a source of revenue. Truthfully, we've noticed this year that they're not booking and quite so much, so it's on our outreach for the springtime. We will be doing more contact with them. We have seen more, I know we have seen more in the shoulder season. On the other hand, we do sometimes get people who have free time from the tour that they've been on, come wandering into the archives, and they ask for a tour.
Okay, and I'd also suggest you reach out to Sherry Rice, who's with RSC, because she has some of the contacts hired from here on the
Yes.
tourism side, so she might be able to provide some help there. I guess the only other thing, Your Worship, if you don't mind my other question, was
No, continue,
some of
please.
our museums, we've knocked down to 5 days just because of costing and well, staffing too, that you'd leave it kind of short-staffed if you go to the 7, even with 3 people. So I guess the question is, well, it's always great to be open 7 days. Is there, if we just stayed at the 5-day, or you stayed at the 5-day of offering the services, is that workable?
This year, with the 2 summer students plus Anna, they did do 6 days a week, and they said at the end of the summer, Anna's final comment was, if we're staffed like this again next year, 5 days a week, because they were run off their feet. Heaven forbid somebody should be ill, then you're really short-staffed. So, I mean, you do what you have to do, I guess my answer is. If we can run for 7 days, we will. If we have the staffing that we can't run for 7 days, if it's 6 days or 5 days, then that's what it is. I mean, you do the best you can with the money you have, which is certainly what we did this year. Like, I have to compliment Anna's creativity. I mean, she goes after all the grants she can, and then she's overlapping. Well, I can pay this staff member for this many weeks out of this grant, but then like the overlap and the planning that she does is brilliant. You know, I can't give her enough credit for that. So, for example, we start with somebody about the second week of June, as soon as the students are available from university, and we're able to find someone for the last 6 weeks taken right now till Thanksgiving because of the creativity in her budgeting.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Sandy, for very concise answers there. You keep enforcing the fact that what you're looking for is a help with the tourism part of your project. Well, in St. Andrews, we've got Explore St. Andrews, which deals with tourism, and they have a fairly significant budget to deal with to help with tourism activities. Have you reached out to them to put in an application to access some of the money that they might be able to give?
We have not, so if you're offering that as a suggestion.
It does kind of fall out of their mandate, though. Their kind of primary goal, they do festivals and events, but their primary mandate is to attract people to the community. Typically speaking, they don't subsidize business operations. It does seem like a big amount of money, but if you start subsidizing all the tourism offerings in this community, you wouldn't have much left for marketing after the festivals and events, even though I do appreciate it is a large budget. But right now, it's not something they currently do. We have the power, though, within the way the bylaw reads, to change that. Councillor Heenan.
I guess this is more of a question for Mr. Spear and Mr. Knopper, but are the washrooms at the courthouse, are they public? I didn't think they were.
The handshake understanding we've had with the archives where feel free to do the tours. We'll give it a big cleaning at the opening and a big cleaning at the closing and keep care of it in between, honestly. For the last couple of 3 years.
Well, I'm not certain that a opening and closing cleaning has actually happened.
Well, but I'm just saying, I was told that they weren't open to the public, like when I was there a couple of years ago, that they weren't accessible, et cetera, and we weren't looking after them. So I question the washroom issue, because you made a point about it, and I'm just asking the question. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Sandy. I have been on the other end where I've done the tours, and that was done through volunteers. And over the years, we've decreased in volunteers. Franklin's been doing a lot of work to bring them back, but there just aren't people volunteering. There aren't the people that have the knowledge of the history. I myself got very busy, so I had to back off. But it was done by retired teachers, retired educators, retired people who had an interest in history and would do the tours, do the mock trials. And those were things that were attractive. They also did a play, which we were involved in. And it's just that we ran our course and we're on to other things and can't keep everything going. But, I kudos to you people for doing the work behind the scenes, because it is a lot of work to keep that building open. And I know because I've been there. So it's a wonderful building that we have, and I know it's part of our history and we need to keep it alive. And it's just, we've just got to find a way to make it be sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last call. You're with the organization, yeah. In essence of everyone's time, though, is it new? It's new context, new information.
Just a bit of history on the washrooms.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the question was asked. So.
Until COVID, the town was. Oh, sorry. Until COVID, the town did have somebody who came and cleaned. I think it was once a week, at least. It may have been more than that. And then COVID, of course, swamped everything. And since then, the town hasn't been doing anything, and we've been having to keep it clean ourselves. And it's not really our business. And so that's why it was suggested we bring that back to the attention. It would be part of the courthouse budget, presumably. And Thank you.
Thank you for the background on that question. All good. All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate it. And yeah, once we understand what the budget parameters are, we'll be making decisions on all of these presentations. The next presentation is Steve Saunders. He is the chair of Katie's Cove Inc. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and council members. Thank you for inviting me to present our group's request for funding. Tonight, I'm submitting a request for a grant of $20,000 from the town. And I've got a few slides here that will give some background on Katie's Cove and what it's all about and what we would like to do with this $20,000. Okay, Paul. Thanks. As you know, Katie's Cove is a nonprofit corporation that was spun off of the Kiwanis in 2018, and our board comprises a diverse group of professionals, including an architect, an attorney, healthcare professionals, engineers, the town's recreational director, Merv, and a PR multimedia specialist. Upon our incorporation, we negotiated a 20-year lease with the waterfront property with the Algonquin owners at that time that was carried over last year to its current owners. 2039, which is when the lease expires, seems a long way off, but it will be here before you know it, and I'm optimistic, not only from the standpoint of KCI, but I think just the world in general. I predict that by then we will have gotten on top of climate change, and I think a Nobel Prize will have been awarded to someone who's figured out how to reverse, oh, I meant to leave that out, how to reverse male pattern baldness. Okay. Katie's Cove had a fabulous 2024 summer. Our opening gala with the ribbon cutting was a hit. We had representatives from municipal, provincial, and federal government there, all of whom got a chance to speak. And acknowledgements for that event go out to our members, Vicky Hogarth and Merv Hanselpacher, who pulled together resources from the town and Cook's Aquaculture, among others. Another thing that happened this summer is we hired our first employee, Chris Kohler. If you live in St. Andrews for any length of time, you've had dealings with Kohlers. They're all nice. He was our Cove Meister, and he kept the place in good nick, and he also gathered much useful feedback from the visitors there. And then in the fall, the Dragon Boat Club had a successful regatta, which was just 2 weeks ago. And last month, we had our first wedding, or at least the first official one. And this turned out to be a much bigger deal than any of us had anticipated. And Merv came to the fore and saw to it that we had all the permits and paperwork in line just in the nick of time. And just a quick aside was, one of the items I saw in the ordinances for noise was glass clinking beyond 9 p.m. is not allowed. And I thought, geez, what a ridiculous thing. Then I went to a wedding. And after about an hour of glass clinking, I got it, right? So I think that this is something that needs to be enshrined in the pantheon of well thought out rules and regulations that come from this body. Finally, through Vicky Hogarth's connections, we brought together reps from Invest, that's the new owner group for the hotel, and His Worship to discuss the transfer of land ownership to KCI. This meeting went well, and as you all know, negotiations between town and Invest are ongoing. All right, next slide. In 2024, this is what happened as far as town support's concerned. We had lawn mowing, garbage removal, technical service and support, which included the operation of the tide gates, which is no small thing. Plus, we were awarded a grant for $15,000 from you folks last year. And this is a big deal. You know, we would not have been able to have the great 2024 that we did without that help. And I think that the town has dedicated possibly as much support to maintaining the Cove as it does to its own parks. All right, next slide. Of course, during all this time, we have ongoing discussions with the town, and I think some acknowledgement of the useful advice that comes from Chris and Paul. some acknowledgement of that needs to be made. They pointed us in the right directions on a lot of things that were critical. Plus, we got free lessons in the workings of the municipal government of a small town. All right, financial challenges, and you will note in the background we have a stuck open gate. We can get into that later if you like. We have operations costs, and that includes keeping the buildings in good nick and paying for insurance. So these are all things that we have to do in order to keep from just putting a padlock on the place. And then there are things that we want to do, like improvements to the landscaping and some capital work that needs to be done on the property. So next slide is our forecast of costs for 2025. This list, the property maintenance costs are projections. We don't really know right now without a crystal ball what's going to happen, but the other entries are based on our 2023 expenses. And an item that we'd like to add, you can see there that summer staff is $9,600. What we'd like to do is have 2 people instead of 1 working at the Cove this season. All right, next slide. So our request for assistance is to continue in the in-kind support that we've been getting, which is garbage collection, lawn mowing, and operation of the gates. And there are members of this council who actually participated in that. It might actually be something you all ought to consider doing. Sort of a rite of passage, if you will. Plus help with our operational costs with a grant of $20,000. And that's it for me. Are there questions?
Thank you very much, Council. Councilor Harlan.
Thanks, Steve. Great presentation. Just the summer staff, what's the need for 2? Help me understand.
Well, we have Chris who's doing maintenance things, and what we'd like to do is we'd like to start selling some things, like food, snacks, maybe even having some sand chairs for people to sit in, that sort of thing. We might not necessarily have someone there full-time, both people there full-time.
Right. Okay.
Councilor Hurdle.
Great presentation, thank you very much. You have a line item, it's not one of your bigger line items on here, but for a need for security funding. I'm just kidding if you can give me an idea of what the concern around security is at Katie's Cove?
Well, there aren't any residences near the Cove that have a direct line of sight to the place. So we want to be able to maintain some security cameras to help keep honest people honest. And it's been a popular spot for teenagers to come during the off hours. And so if we can just have a means of keeping an eye on things, who knows, we might even have one of our staff lurk around in the evening.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. As someone who learned to swim in the Cove, just wondering about possibility of resurrecting swimming lessons with Mervyn on board and the summer programming. Maybe that'd be an opportunity.
That was one of the items that we thought that the second employee would cover, swimming lessons. Then there's the whole issue of, if we get lifeguards, then we have to have someone who is Red Cross approved. And that line of training that we had back in the old days doesn't exist anymore. So that's a process that's going to probably not be available next summer, but we'll start working on that, obviously.
Any other member? All right, well, thank you very much, appreciate it. Jumping back to the agenda, we're going to move forward to number 4, which is Fiona Connolly and Amanda Bobin, which is the St. Croix Blade Speed Skating.
Do you want to start that? Okay.
Okay, good evening. My name is Fiona Conley, and I am here with Amanda Beaubien as members of the St. Croix Blades Speed Skating Club Board. And we are here to ask for $3,000 to help us in our time of rebuilding our club. So our club has been here for 25 plus years. I actually, when I taught at Vincent Massey 20 years ago, I actually taught students that were speed skaters. And when my kids became old enough, I was like, this is what we're going to do. So my own children started speed skating because of what I have seen over the past 20 years of this club. Our sport of speed skating is focused on self-improvement. So PBs, which is on the slide, stands for personal bests. Students I'm also a teacher. So the skaters are not competing necessarily against each other. They're competing against themselves. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. We're also looking at fitness, and not just fitness for children, but also fitness for all ages. We provide one of the few Learn to Skate programs in Charlotte County. And I will talk more about that as well. And we have leadership opportunities for some of our older skaters. We have done competitive meets in the community in past years where we've brought in people from other places, so it's a little bit of a tourist bump. And we provide differentiated skating support. So when we're doing support for skating, especially at the Learn to Skate level, teaching a 4-year-old to skate looks different than teaching an 11-year-old to skate, but they're in the same group. And so the way that we can provide that allows for something that really does enrich our community. So skating leadership development is one of those pieces with the differentiated things. The skaters themselves do focus on their personal bests. They're constantly looking on improving their own time. And the kids will move from one division to the next. So when you're at the top of your division, you're super fast. It looks really great. You get a little bit faster, then you're at the bottom of the division. So there's constantly a chance for the kids to look at self-improvement. And because it's looking at personal bests, it's definitely in fostering inclusivity. So you can have an 11-year-old that will skate at the same time as a 4-year-old and still feel like they're doing their personal best. Our group, we have 4 groups. So group 4 is our Learn to Skate. Group 3 is our Learn to Speed Skate. Group 2 is our Learn to Compete. And our group 1 is Learn to Train. Our group 1 and 2 skaters will support our groups 3 and 4. So normally they come in at the beginning of our ice time and they are on the ice the entire time that we're there. And those group 3 and 4 kids, because we have kids that are 4 and 11, we do actually have to run it almost like a classroom where they have different centers. And we do ask our group 3 and 4 skaters to actually do a lot of the hands-on activities. This fosters responsibility, communication skills, and positive peer interactions. We've also, as a club, supported competitive skaters in the past 6 years. So we have skaters that have competed in Canada East, and have also gone to competitions in Quebec City, which is one of the big ovals in Canada. Quebec and Calgary would be the 2 biggest ones. We also have skaters that compete in other Atlantic provinces. So they'll go to PEI and to Halifax, as well as to the other clubs within New Brunswick. We do have improved community fitness as one of the things that we are benefiting the community with. As I had said earlier, we are an option for Learn to Skate. Learn to Skate is quite challenging for lots of parents to be able to find a position. And so we often, our Learn to Skate kids, we've got way more of those normally than we have of the other groups. It is open to all ages, so we do sometimes have some older people, like adults, that say, can I learn to skate? Can I learn to speed skate? If anybody here would like to learn to speed skate, you can come and talk to us afterwards. We would love to have you. We are a skating option that's not hockey, because there are not every family that would like to be able to have their kids participate in hockey. And one of the things for us is that there's no requirement that the kids actually participate in a competition. They all just need to come to practice. If they want to compete, they can, but they are more than welcome to be in level 1 and 2 if they're skating fast enough and not actually compete. That means that it's a less of a financial barrier for the families because they're not going to be letting their team down and not showing up for a competition. We do actually support the hockey in our community because there's lots of kids that start and learn to skate and then they go on to hockey. And we actually did go and compare our ice times to a lot of the local clubs. So there's one in St. John, there's one in Moncton, there's one in Hampton. And we're about par with the ice time, so we're good value for ice time. We did this year reduce the amount of hours because we have fewer skaters at the moment, and we have increased ice costs, and we have some capital things that we need to update. We're less of a good value right now, but than we were last year. Last year we were actually giving more ice time for less money than in comparison this year to the other clubs that are around. So our financial concerns right now is that our 2021 year and our 21-22 year were quite difficult. And it was hard for us to be able to have skaters that would come in. So, and some of those kids right now would be, if they're coming in at 5, they would be 9 now, and they would be our level 3 kids. And so our level 3 group is quite small. And we have a number of older skaters that have graduated high school, and so they've moved on to university, and so they're no longer in the community. And so we are also new adult volunteers. Our coach at the moment has been coaching for 20 years or so, and this is his last year. And so we have, adults that are now picking up to be able to replace him. I started coaching the littles, and now I coach the level 3 kids. We do need to do equipment upkeep. So we have pads that we haul from the basement, and we really want to thank you guys for allowing us to be able to put the pads up on the same level, because that made our lives so much better from every parent and every kid that pulled pads. Yep, we really appreciated that. Skates are rented, boots and blades must be replaced, so we need new sizes every year. Skates are rented at $150, $25 of that is a deposit that follows the kids. We haven't funded any coach development in 8 years. There are some increased ice fees, and there are also some increased Speed Skate Canada fees that we have. So our goal for our grant is to help update some of our skating equipment. So in the actual application, we talked about skates and boots. And we would also like to defray some of the costs of registration for this year as we support our families so it continues to be an accessible sport. And that will allow us to be able to rebuild so that we can continue to be part of the community. This is considered a rebuilding time period for us, and so we're asking for $3,000 so that we can make sure that we can continue to be part of the community.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Harlan?
Thank you. Great presentation. I really appreciate the philosophy of the club in terms of its inclusivity, its focus on self-improvement, the personal best. I think that's all wonderful. It's a Charlotte County club, is that correct?
It is. The majority of the skaters are coming from the St. Andrews area, but you're right. I live outside of St. George, and my 2 children are from St. George. And we do have a couple of skaters that are coming from St. Stephen. So the majority of the skaters are coming from St. Andrews.
Okay. so you don't have a sense of a breakdown in terms of, I'm just trying to get a sense, because it's Charlotte County, it's the St. Croix Speed Skating Club. And do you ask for any assistance from any of the other municipalities?
We haven't in the past. So last year we asked for $500 from you, and we are looking at all venues of fundraising, not only from the municipalities but also from Speed Skate Canada, who would be supporting us with funding for open houses to be able to increase your membership. And so we're looking for a bridging time period. So we are absolutely open to going to St. George, Eastern Charlotte, and to St. Andrew, St. Stephen. However, because the club is housed in St. Andrews, we're coming to you first.
Okay, and just one last thing. I think it's wonderful that you try to defray costs when possible and when appropriate. And I think that that's an important opportunity for some families to provide exposure for their children and for their children to participate in this kind of an event, of a sport. I just really think that the other municipalities need to step up, need to be requested. Support needs to be requested from them so that more families could potentially benefit from that.
Yep.
So thank you very much.
We're absolutely looking into all venues.
Thank you. Councillor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you very much for a good presentation. I, like Councillor Harlan, like I was reading, we have skaters who reside in St. Andrews, St. George, and St. Stephen, as well as other surrounding areas in Charlotte County. So my question is I believe that, like Councillor Harlan, that there should be some participation by those towns. And also I noticed that your registrations are the lowest in the province. How much is a registration?
So a registration for us this year is, if you are looking for Learn to Skate, there are 2 sessions that we are doing at $150 each. So it would be from October to the end of December, and then from January until March. Learn to Speed Skate is $400. Learn to Compete is $500, and Learn to Train is $500. If we are comparing that to, do you have a preference? Hampton's probably one that's fairly close in terms of size. Group 4, which is their Learn to Skate, is $200, but they do 15 minutes less a week than we do. Group 3 is $275 as opposed to our $400, but they're doing 1 hour of skating a week. The Group 2 and the Group 1 is also $500. St. John, if we're looking at them, their Group 1 is $930. Their Group 1 Elite is $975, but they're doing 4 hours and a half on ice. Their Learn to Skate is 30 minutes, and it's $275. So we're doing 45 minutes for $300, and we've put it into 2 chunks. Part of the thing is that we have some kids that will come in and they will not be ready in October when the ice goes in, but they can be ready after Christmas. And so we would like them to be able to have that opportunity. We also have kids that come in October, and like we got the 11-year-old that learns how to skate, and they're going to pick that up before Christmas time. Let's move them up to speed skates. And as soon as we can get them into speed skates, we get them into speed skates. And so that opens a spot up for the Learn to Skate program. Did you want to see like Fredericton? No, that gives you, okay, all right.
I'm fine. I just needed to get my head around what the lowest rates were and what other places you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
And just to give you an idea, so the Learn to Skate group tends to be the one that runs the program because there's like 17 of them. And 17 kids on the ice all at the same time, the ages of like mostly 4 to 7, is a lot of kids, which is where we end up having the older kids being great leaders for us. Those kids, I cannot tell you the breakdown because they come in and come out year to year. At the moment, you've got 3 St. George skaters and 1 St. Stephen skater. So while we will be asking other councils, the majority of our skaters are coming from the St. Andrews area.
So my question may not be fair because it's a tough question, but you said it's a rebuilding year.
Yes.
My question to you is numbers have been going like this.
Yep.
How do you rebuild?
So 2 things that we can do to be able to rebuild is Speedskate Canada's actually got grants to be able to do open houses. And we have had those grants in the past. The unfortunate piece for us is that some of the times that we've had those grants, it's been during red times where we weren't able to actually be together. We would like to be able to do an open house where people can come in and try and skate. With a renewal of the board, you have people who are learning how to do some of the things like advertising at the different schools, making sure that people can see things that are going on in our community. One thing that we have been talking to Mervyn about is getting a big board in the arena that can advertise the fact that there is a speed skating group, which is something that's consistent in many of the other arenas that we go and compete in. Fredericton has a board that not only advertises speed skating, but also gives information to parents about, like, this is what your kid needs to be wearing. Please make sure that they're wearing their Kevlar guards, because they shouldn't be on the ice without their safety goggles or their Kevlar guards. Or when they're going to a competition, you want to make sure that they've got a lanyard on their glasses. And we normally just have like 4 or 5 parents that have 3 or 4 of those things in our backpacks, and so we just kind of dole them out. But it would be lovely to be able to advertise that sort of stuff. So that's one thing, the advertisement piece, us learning. Amanda, you've been speed skating with us for a year?
My daughter just joined last year, so I'm very new to this. That's why I let her do all the speaking, because I'm sort of learning as I go as well.
And while I've been on the ice with the little kids because I have a comfortability with younger primary students. I don't necessarily have comfortability with speed skates. My experience was figure skating, which is also an interesting piece. There isn't a figure skating group in Charlotte County at the moment that we could find. There was one, exactly, yep. So in terms of rebuilding, what does it look like? For us, it looks like learning the ropes and making sure that we can do some fundraising, be able to do some things. The other thing that's important that you guys may not know is that we haven't had a provincial coach for years that's been consistent. And so that means that for us as an organization within New Brunswick, it's quite challenging for us to be able to provide that coach development. Part of the reason why the coach development hasn't happened in 8 years is because there hasn't been given any. Whereas we now have an elite coach that can be able to help with that in Fredericton. And we have somebody in Fredericton that can help us with certain things. The simple fact of us not having to drag the pads up from the basement means that our pads aren't going to be torn nearly as much. So when we replace them, we're not having to look at duct taping them all the time. So there are some things that we can do as within ourselves. We're just looking for a bridging, because while we can run the club this year, we're just not sure we'd be able to run it next year. And if we can make sure that we can protect some of the money that we've got in our savings to be able to use for equipment costs and whatnot, then that would really help us to make sure that that time period where we've got new volunteers learning things and new coaches, we can make sure that we can be here for another 10, 15, or 20 years.
Thank you. Any other questions?
A question for Mr. Spear. Would it be safe to say that speed skating would be one of our anchor tenants? Kind of, there's men's hockey, minor hockey, and then our third kind of major tenant would be speed skating?
Yep, they've certainly been a long-time partner and user at the arena for many, many years, as long as I've been with the town. So certainly value them being a customer and trying to help them along over the last several years as they face challenges like many other organizations and volunteerism and the declining number of children in our community.
Thank you, Mr. Spear.
Can I address that as well? So like our numbers so previously we were there doing 5 3/4 of an hour of ice time a week. And that would be from as soon as the ice went in to when the ice came out. And in fact, we loved having the opportunity when the ice got kept in for a little longer, because that allowed us to be able to have some skaters that were doing some of the Canada East or attempting to be on the provincial teams would have chances to be on the ice here in the community. We are down to 3 hours now.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, Council, we are halfway through the presentations. Does anyone need a quick recess? Good to keep going? All right, let's continue then. The next is Leslie O'Leary, Vincent Massey Elementary School, outdoor community space and classroom. But I don't believe that, Leslie is here, and so she's not alone. Miss Workman.
Thank you. I'm Leslie O'Leary, your school principal, and this is Mandy Workman. She is our kindergarten grade 1 teacher as well as our outdoor education specialist. We wanted to share with you what is going on at Vincent Massey that you may want to be involved with. And I also want to thank the town and our community of St. Andrews for being such a great supporter of our school and our outdoor spaces that we uphold very dear to our community. First of all, you can just keep going through that. You will notice that we don't have a catchy title. We do ask our students to help us with all of our project ideas, and so we're still working on that, and we will work with our community partners as well. But currently, this is the outside of our school area that in the past, if you remember, those of us that have been here for a while, it actually had bench seating, it had a community garden that our student and school volunteers took care of. Over the years, the wood deteriorated, and we've had to have it removed, which our district helped us with due to the safety concerns. So that's currently what it looks like. And if we turn to the next slide, we have lots of visions of how we can recreate this space so that we can include an outdoor area that we can be used for an outdoor classroom, as well as a shaded area for students to be outside. So it could potentially look like this. And if you turn to the next slide as well, we are also hoping to include an outdoor communication board that would include artwork from our students, as well as to communicate some of the town events that happen. As you know, over the years, due to changes in school protocols, we have less and less people coming into our school buildings, but we have so many people outside of our school using our community playground. Our daycare stays after school as well. Lots of visitors that we would like to promote the great work that our town does. So to promote town events, as well as community events, as well as the arts and cultural experiences that our students having. So it could look something like that as well. Also, the next slide.
So one of the intentions of this space would be not only as a place for communication with parents so that they can see children's artwork, they can have a place to sit potentially while they're watching their children, and hopefully we'll have some shade there, but also as an act of sort of communicating not only with the children that we value reconciliation with our Wabanaki and Pescadumacati people, but also the place that we live in. And through that, we show that to the children, but also to the community. So we're hoping that in this space, we can grow some Indigenous New Brunswick plants and include some of the language of the Pescadumacati people to identify those plants. And of course, that would have to go with we'd have to work through consultation with our community here for that. But this is sort of some of the ideas that we've been collecting for plants. And you can go to the next slide. I included a beautiful quote here because Robin Wall Kimmerer, she is, I just read her book about a year and a half ago, and I was really touched by it, and she says it so much better. She is indigenous to Turtle Island. She is a Potawatomi botanist, speaker, teacher, professor, and great author from Turtle Island, and she basically, her message and what we in education are starting to realize is that we need to see and acknowledge that land is teacher. And we're education is changing a lot, and we're coming out of our four walls and starting to trying to connect more deeply with the land and using that knowledge to communicate with children so that they have that connection. And the next slide, I'm not going to go through all of this information because it's a lot. I'm working on a master's in outdoor education right now, so I've included some quotes and some research in this slide. But basically, I think we all can sort of realize that in no other time in history, children are more disconnected from nature than any other time. And we can sort of there's a growing body of research that is seeing a correlation between this and the growing mental health, physical issues, social issues that children are facing. And we're seeing that a lot of our children, one of the remedies is spending time in nature. So just being in nature, and any excuse to get outside and learn and experience and get to know and build relationship with our place here in St. Andrews, our land, our plants, is healthy for them. And you can go to so what our plan is and our motivation is to increase the amount of lessons outdoors. We will, of course, still use our school building, but to give the children not only a mental health break, but that direct experience that they are so lacking, and we as human beings seem to be lacking in this time of increased technology. So our goal is to create little micro ecosystems all around our school, but at that particular entrance, not only is that, again, communication for parents, but communication of what we value and that the stories that we value, which are our Passamaquoddy and Wabanaki stories that we would like to show the community.
So the support that we're asking for is completely up to you in regards to how you want to support this project. We definitely need financial support for building materials and labor costs. We also need some labor that maybe the town may feel more comfortable helping us with in terms of that pile of dirt that we showed you earlier needs stumps removed. It needs to be leveled before any kind of construction can begin. So we are open to any support that you would like to be able to offer us, as we know that we have great partnerships with the town and our school is open to our community. So we want you to be part of it, and we also wanted to take this time to share with you what this project is all about. And this is just one area. We do have big visions for some of the other areas around our school as well to encourage outdoor learning and students and children and families being active. So we want to have as many active spaces as possible surrounding our school. And we do have a little video if it works, just because it's all about them.
They're going to guilt you now.
Yeah, no.
Yes. Can you say no to these faces?
Yeah, sorry, we have old technology, so we couldn't embed it in there. It didn't play, but yeah. And thank you once again for all of your support and all the great things that you do for our town.
Outdoors is so much fun, and we're so thankful for helping us out, and it's important to the environment.
If you have any questions, reach out to Mrs. O'Leary and Mrs. Workman.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you!
Yeah. It's all about that. So is there any questions for us?
Thank you so much for the presentation. Council, I did have the opportunity to go on site and actually walk around the space and see this project, what they were talking about, but over to you. I had lots of time to ask lots of questions, so this is your time. Councillor Harlan.
Thank you for the presentation. Wonderful. Really exciting to see what you're planning. I think it's really important for us to also recognize that VMES is a critical part of our municipality. Like it's a destination for some people who come here. And having had 5 children go through it, and now having 3 grandchildren coming to visit the playground and all that VMES has on the outside, it's just wonderful. It's an exceptional opportunity for families and children. So I'm really encouraged to see what you're doing, and very, very supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harlan. You're right. The easy thing to do would be to say it's owned by the province of New Brunswick. It's in their court. But the reality is if we want to attract young families, the more attractive our school is, the more success that we're going to have in doing that and retaining them, which is an important element. So well said. Any other member of council? Councillor Heenan.
First off, wonderful presentation. I sort of live in behind your school, and the playground is the same during school as it is in the summer. So I often think when I'm out in my yard, I think, is this really summer? Like, it just sounds like, except for the bells, the bells, there's really no difference in the amount of people that are in the play park. So I think it's great. Thank you. Just had to point that out.
I am a little concerned, Councillor Heenan, because the Loyalist graveyard is directly behind the school, but any other member of council? You can tell I was in the car 3 hours today, can't you? All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. It's good to have educators in here, eh? Not getting a look from them. All right, let's keep moving. Sarah Brinkhurst, Executive Director with Sunbury Shores. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Executive Director implies I have minions, but as you know, we don't.
Yeah. Sounds better, though, when you tell yourself what to do, right?
I know. Executive Director and janitor, yeah. So I apologize. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present, and I apologize. This is like probably the most boring ask you've ever had. Normally we come to you with asks to support children's arts education and that kind of thing. Every year our funding varies, and we go after different granting for maintaining our programs and things like that. So what different monies come from different pools. So this year we weren't too badly off for children's education. We've got a couple of other grant things in the pipeline. But what did happen was both our heat pumps decided to quit in the summer, and we had them investigated, and they were both faulty. One turned out to be a fairly minor repair with a leak that was easily fixed, and the other one basically, after we pulled half of the basement ceiling down, trying to find the leak in the second one, we were unable to find the leak. So it has meant the whole thing, we've had to put new lines in to the system outside to get it actually back up and working. I did include some quotes and some costs that we had incurred with all this. And it turned out to be a lot of money, and we just don't have that in our budget. I haven't put in for the normal I carefully took out the amounts that we would normally pay for maintenance calls and things like that. And obviously HST is not in the ask because we actually get half that back as a charitable registered charity. And where we can cover some of the costs with other things, it still leaves about $6,500 that we're currently short. So that is basically, I say it's very unglamorous, but without those 2 bits of machinery, it was extremely hot and uncomfortable during the summer, and it's starting to get a bit cold in the winter. And we do run the class program, which is arts for the schools. Sir Jamestown Academy have students come in all through the school year. We've got the grade 9s in at the moment upstairs, so we need to keep them comfortable. And we have other programs going on this side of Christmas, and then after Christmas the school year keeps going, so that keeps happening. So it's not like we have a timeout that we can just stop and save some up. So that's basically the ask. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Council.
Yeah.
All right.
That boring.
In fairness, the ones that go like 1 and 2 and 3 usually get more questions, and 6, 7, 8 just naturally as the night goes on.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, I would like.
How cold is the heat pump? No, like it's like we're good, right?
Yeah. Oh, the life drawing models, yes. It gets more interesting if it's chilly up there. I would just like to say, because some of you probably are aware that we just have had a major fundraising event. The Robert and Bessie Bartlett just so amazingly gave us a $30,000 match funding opportunity, and we did it in 30 days, and our community has been fantastic and has raised the money to match. So we are so grateful for that, and it's easy to then say, well, you've got 60 grand, what are you going to do with that? A lot of that does have strings attached. Some of it is comes in with requests for it to be applied to certain things, usually programming, particularly children's, because that's the fun one. Some of it is going into the endowment fund because it's not often that we do get an opportunity to put some towards that. We're usually doing it the other way around, taking it out, and we don't often get the chance to put it back. So that money obviously would be nice to put towards heat pumps, but it's pretty much all accounted for this year. We normally have 40 to 60,000 that we have to scrabble around and find from somewhere, and that's basically filled the hole for this year. So it doesn't sadly cover unexpected things like completely faulty heat pump. But anyway, so if there's any questions of anything else.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Happy to ask? No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
On you go.
Being here waiting out for that.
That's all right.
All right, the 7th presentation, Stratus Cavaris and May Doyle, which is the St. Andrews Pickleball, fastest growing sport in North America.
That was what I was going to say.
Presentation over. Thanks for being here, Stratus.
Thank you. My name is Stratus Gavaris. I'm here with May Doyle and Carol Gavaris. We represent a group of people who have gotten together at the community college to play pickleball. As you mentioned, it's a very popular sport amongst many ages. We've had people from the high school and the college, right up to some 80-year-olds from our community coming out and playing. The popularity is probably because it's an easy game to pick up, easy to play, very inexpensive. If you have non-marking shoes, we have paddles and pickleballs. The library lends out paddles if you want to borrow one from them. So we're having a lot of participation, and we're very pleased with how things are going. So the other thing about it is that it tends to be more social than competitive. There are competitive pickleball, but the way we play it, we alternate partners. It's a partners playing game, and we alternate who we're playing against, so everyone gets a chance to socialize a lot too. It's lots of fun. Hope you come out and try it. So our aim here is, in coming and asking you, is that we're renting the college for the facilities. And as I said, it's not very expensive. It's for this winter season, it'll be just a bit over $7,000. And we're just asking, we'd appreciate any amount you can help to defray that cost. We'd like to keep the costs of fees for people coming to play as low as possible. We'd like to make the sport accessible and affordable to as many as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? But how many people, I'll kick it off, I guess. How many people usually come per week to participate?
Last winter, on Sunday afternoons, there were an average of 25 every Sunday, like, so anywhere between 20 and 30 people. And on Wednesday evening was our other night, and that averaged 18 people every Wednesday. So this year, we're looking at going 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sunday afternoons, because it's just growing and more popular, and so our costs have gone up a fair bit too. Not every senior has a whole lot of extra pocket change, and then there's some kids from the college who also, you know, not a lot of extra cash.
Thank you. Any other member? Councilor Erdl.
Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you, the association, the community for doing what it does. Obviously, my mom is an avid pickleball player, and but I want to speak to the importance of having a low barrier, accessible sport in the community that it is. It encourages mobility, the social aspect of it. It is fundamentally important to how we consider ourselves and perceive ourselves in a community, and to have that sort of stop for the wintertime. It can be really, detrimental to folks who are worried about their mobility and staying active throughout the whole year. So having that ability to continue to do that through the winter, I think, is really important. And I think thank you for coming forward with the ask for it.
And we're really fortunate that the community college has that space that we can use. We put 3 courts up over there. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other member of council? Councilor Gubishal.
Thank you for your presentation. Just quickly, one of the things that came up at the Regional Service Commission planning for recreation sessions that I attended was in all the communities, representatives were basically speaking out about the difficulty in accessing school gyms and the high rates. $30 is a real deal compared to what the other gyms are. But given that there's not a ton of things going on at the community college in the evenings, I would hope that you'd be able to even get that rate a little bit lower, because you must be their most significant user at that, given the numbers. So, and it is an election year, so it might be a good time to try to renegotiate your rates. But thanks for all you do. I hope to get out one of these nights.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
We are working on those rates, and we're working on those rates, and we're getting nowhere. We've been discussing it like for the last 2 years with the powers that be and sending off emails and whatnot, but it's a provincial rate. During some of our games this summer, there was a certain gentleman who played pickleball in one of the community colleges in the province, and I won't say which one, but he said they were getting 50% off. So we went to our college with that, and we got nowhere. But anyway, that rate did go up. It doubled from pre-pandemic. We were paying $15 an hour, and now it's $30, and that's where most of this $7,000 goes, except for tax and the little bit of insurance money. Yeah. That's where it all goes.
My mind's going, if we help to build an outdoor classroom, could we get a free gym at the elementary school? Put 2 requests together, but anyway, don't let that.
Yeah.
I think there's regulations around who can be in and out of the schools nowadays for obvious reasons. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Unfortunately, drawing number 7 this evening. Yes. But the only thing worse than number 7 is number 8. So Lori Collins has been patiently waiting. She's the executive director of Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Hi, welcome. No, welcome. I'm making a great start here. Thank you very much. Hi, Paul. Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. We really appreciate being here. My name is Debbie Cooper. Lori is homesick, unfortunately. Lori is our executive director, and she extends her regrets for not being able to be here this evening. And I have 2 of my colleagues with us tonight as well. Dolores Borthwith is one of our mentoring coordinators in Charlotte County, based out of St. George. And Debbie Lord is probably very familiar with most of you. She is the Youth Center Supervisor for CHCO. So both of them will be bringing you up to date on a lot of the youth activity that Big Brothers Big Sisters is currently operating in Charlotte County. In particular, we're here tonight about St. Andrews. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and we look forward to presenting this. We didn't bring a PowerPoint tonight. We sent in our letter of request earlier. Hopefully people have it in front of you. Yes, Paul has given me the head shake, so we're all set. And I'm really glad the principal's here tonight as well, because I know some of our staff have met with you and the principal from Sir James Dunn Academy as well. As stated in our presentation, or the letter that we sent out, we've been providing programs and services in the St. Andrews area since about 2012. And because of funding, and we've applied for various grants over the years, it has been difficult to obtain a certain amount of sustainable funding and the proper funding in order to provide a staff person for this area. And with the requests that we're getting and the response from the community, it's time. We do have Dolores based out of primarily St. George in the greater St. George area, and we have another mentoring coordinator based out of St. Stephen. Her name is Lori Hall. And there's programs and services that Big Brothers Big Sisters provide is from Sussex right through to St. Stephen. So we have about an operating budget of about a little over $400,000. We raise just about 85% of that through grants and through fundraising events. And we are certainly more than willing to do extra work to raise the funds that we need in order to have staff presence here in St. Andrews in order to provide the level of services and programs that we'd like to be able to provide to the children and youth of this area. So what I'll do, I'll turn it over to Dolores to talk a little bit more about, a lot more about programs and services. So Dolores.
Thanks, Debbie. Thank you all for having us here, and hopefully being last might be the best thing for us. I just want to talk a little bit about the programs that we do offer. I worked this job quite a few years, and then I was off for a few years, came back 3 years ago. And one of the things that I saw right off the bat after COVID was the distance between people and between children, and how important what we do is. Big Brothers Big Sisters is all about healthy relationships. And there is no better time right now to try to teach this and role model this to our children in our communities. What we do is really, really badly needed. We have in-school mentoring programs that we do, particularly for me in Eastern Charlotte. And I have an office at Funday High School that I love. We do teen mentoring. So I take grade 10, 11, and 12 students, and we do the interview process, the whole process with them, training, and match them one-to-one with younger students at Funday High in grade 6 or 7, and also our 3 feeder elementary schools, Blacks Harbor, Back Bay, and St. George Elementary. It's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful program to watch these teenagers become kids again when they get to go to the elementary schools and just have fun time with these children, to watch these little guys go from very inward children who won't look you in the eye to giving you hugs every week because you gave them a mentor. That's what makes my world go round. And being a non-for-profit, we count on our communities to help us to try to get through these things. We don't charge any money for anything that we do, but just love what we do. Debbie and I got together last week because I'm more than willing to come back to St. Andrews to get things going again with our teen mentoring. Hopefully Leslie and I can get together and talk about that. And Debbie and I are right now going to do our group programs from the youth center. We have Game On for boys, Go Girls for girls. Both programs focus on healthy living, active living, and feeling good about yourself. They're 7 to 10 week programs that they're just fantastic. And again, we have teen mentors that help us run those programs, and really would very much look forward to being able to offer those programs here. We have a bunch of pamphlets and information, and if I can set them here, we can pass those around. You guys can have a look at them. Hand them out to your friends, because we will be looking for volunteers to help do this as well as the teens. adults. And just the last thing that I have here is a little success story. Our little girls, I just actually met with them today again because it's my hope. Fundy High School is a school that goes from grade 6 to 12. And so a lot of our kids, when they come into that school, it's very intimidating when they come from grade 5. So I would do my best to try to make sure some of these kids that need mentors when they come in grade 6, that they have a mentor. And so this is one of our wonderful matches. This is a teen mentor, Olivia, actually a grade 11 student who loves school so much. She is doubling up her courses this year so that she can graduate this year early because she wants to be able to move on in life and further her own education. And her little mentee, Dion, who has come to Fundy High this year into grade 6 and has faithfully come to me every week to give me a hug to thank me for her mentor. They had fun together today making slime, and to watch this little girl grow over the years. Again, like I said, that's what makes my world go around, to be able to do that. So if we can expand here in St. Andrews and help the kids over here, we would love to be able to have the opportunity to do that. Good. Debbie?
Hey, guys. Yeah. Hi, guys. And we do the Propel program at the youth center, which has been very successful. And I think we've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. And the kids are even asking me now when we're going to start. I'm not sure when we're going to, but it's one of the ones that the kids really love. And we also have one of the kids who can't afford to get, driver's ed or even have a car, and through Big Brothers and Big Sisters and program and Propel program and transport, what's the name of the thing? I can't remember. Safety. This.
Dollar Ride, actually.
Yeah, Dollar Ride is actually a big part of it. They got him from here to St. John every day, every time he had to go. And without this program, he wouldn't have never gotten his license. He's moved on now. He's in the 2nd year at Dalhousie University and doing very well. So, it gives the kids, especially the teenagers, the older ones, the 11 and grade 12 teenagers, something to connect them with the youth center. It's a really good program that we can offer them for that age group. So, yeah, it's good.
Okay. Thanks, Dolores and Debbie. That's great. I also want to say that I'm a past president of the board of directors. I was on the board for about 6 years. And when I joined the board, I really wanted to know what it was like, what our programs were all about. So I signed up to become an in-school mentor. And I met her when she was in grade 1. And we went on Mondays at 10 a.m. because she was having a hard time getting to school. And her grades and everything was suffering at that young age. And this was back in 2016. We changed it into a traditional or community-based match, meaning I became a big sister and she became my little sister. And we're still matched to this day. She just entered grade 9. So we're 8 years into this, and we are committed to the long haul until she graduates. She's already invited me to her graduation in grade 12. So this is a youngster at 6 years of age. We weren't quite sure. Her mom, from a single parent, wasn't quite sure whether she was even going to get out of grade 1. So that's some of the impact that Big Brothers Big Sisters programming has on our children and youth. And we positively impact hundreds. And over our 52 years of experience in this program area, we've positively impacted thousands of young people. And we have matches that are now, they grow up, they get married, and their big brother or big sister stand up for them at their weddings and follow them through when they're having children. So it's a lifelong commitment, which I personally am committed to do with my little sister. Her name is Kellen. We're pretty darn happy. That's the impact of the Big Brothers Big Sisters. And one of the other programs I want to talk about is cricket. It's a program. It's called Cricket Together. We started as a pilot last year. We're the only Big Brothers Big Sisters in Canada selected to run the program. We're matched with Cricket Together based out of the United States. It's probably the most expensive program that we run. It's $100 per match. As a pilot, we ran 90 matches last year. We have a mentoring coordinator running that program. And our 90 mentors, out of those 90, 78 of them were teenagers in grades 10, 11, and 12. And they're all in the southern part of the school. I think there's 69 schools in our school zone, and we operate in the bulk of those schools. So we're very, very pleased with the cricket program, the impact it's already had. Megan, who's our mentoring coordinator in charge of the cricket program, had the school teachers, when they started going back to school the last week of August, they started calling her, asking if they could run it again in their classroom. We have whole classrooms. Sussex Elementary actually signed on 2 classrooms already this year. And already we're on track for 111 matches. And we're slowly looking at and applying for additional funding sources. And we're working hard at providing additional funding sources for that program. The impact of that program has been exponential with the growth from the children, not only from the mentees who are in grades 3 through 5, but also the mentors who are, some of them are in grade 8 because they really wanted to have that opportunity of being matched with a child, and it's all based on reading and writing. So it's reignited an interest in reading and writing for our children in the various schools. And we have focused a lot on the rural schools because part of the funding that we apply for is to buy tablets for these children in the schools because some of the schools don't have the resources that they need. So we're able to provide laptops for the children, or tablets for the children. I just want to take, I didn't bring my cell phone up to keep an eye, but I think we're okay. I just want to read a couple of the quotes from the children to show the impact of the cricket program. This is from a grade 11 student, and her quote goes as follows: "I adore the Cricket Together program. It allows an older generation of kids to interact positively with a younger generation." She's in grade 11. "Cricket Together has helped me develop skills I can use in the future with children, and the radiance that comes from reading my little's letter always brightens my day." This is why we keep going, I think, when we work with children and youth. It's absolutely amazing. And I have more testimonials from the teachers. Like I say, the teachers started calling us when they first went back to school. Cricket is what we want to bring to St. Andrews, hopefully to our schools, hopefully to the children that we work with at the activity center. So with your support, we hope to expand and do a much better job in the St. Andrews area. Any questions?
Yes, well, thank you very much for the presentation.
You're quite welcome.
I could hear the passion in your voice, so yeah, it didn't go unnoticed, and I know some of the good work that's done in the community. Matt Abbott has actually talked to me at length about kind of his involvement, and I know that we have the Judge Tom Bell volunteer of the award, Debbie Lord, right
Yes,
here
we
from our
do.
own community, so we know that Debbie's been entrenched in your organization for a number of years, which makes sense as someone who interacts with their youth most regularly in the community. I guess I'll have a question, then open up to council.
Sure.
Is looking across the region at other municipalities, how does their funding models work within Big Brothers Big Sisters? Is this a situation where, if you look at the kind of overall budget, where they pay 50%, or what does that usually look like, or is it kind of case by case?
It's case by case. Each agency within our province, there's 5 agencies of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and our funding models are all different. Our funding model, we get about 17% from the United Way and from the provincial government to deal with children in care. We raise the rest. We don't, as Dolores said, we don't charge any registration fees for any of our programs because that's not who we are. That's not the children and youth that we're serving. So through grants and a lot of fundraising, major projects, you may have heard of Bowl for Kids' Sake. We've used some of those funds to fund some of the programs down here in the past. And we do our very best to keep our doors open, our programs operating. We have seen an exponential growth in the programs, in the demand, especially as Dolores has mentioned. The pandemic fundamentally changed who we are, how we operate, and how our children, and the impact that it's had on our children and youth. I don't think I'm saying anything out of line to say the mental health issues facing our children and youth is drastically different than it was prior to, for all kinds of various reasons. So the need for the types of programs that we provide, the mentoring programs that we provide, true mentoring based on developmental relationships, which is all about expressing care that the mentors and the mentees develop. It's all about challenging their growth to acquire new skills and to be able to do what they need to do to grow up and to become contributing members of our society. We provide support to these mentors and the mentees. All of our staff do that. The mentees and the mentors determine, they share power by learning decision-making and conflict management skills. That's all part of the mentoring partnership that's developed. And then expanding their possibilities. We all need hope. We all need to have joy in our life. And by providing the programs and services that we provide an opportunity for new possibilities. Kellen and I have done things that her mom could never possibly provide to her. We've gone places. She's acquired new skills. Whatever she wants to do, if it's possible to arrange that, we'll arrange it to the best of my ability, to the rest of our other staff's ability, of whatever we can do. We'll do that. Because these children deserve it. These children need it. Our families need that support. So as an organization, we work with families, the child, and the agency. There's 3 levels to our organization. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. Any other member of council? Councilor Harlan.
Thank you for the presentation.
You're very welcome.
I'm just still a little bit, I need a little bit of clarity around the structure.
Okay.
So you said that there were 5 agencies. So did you, was
that's in the province, like there's one in Woodstock and one
So
in,
is an agency a board of directors?
Each agency is a nonprofit, so our agency has a voluntary board of directors, yes.
Right, and so the board of directors that Charlotte County would fall under, would that be the St. John Board of Directors?
Oh, okay. What I meant is that there's 5 other Big Brothers Big Sisters in their province.
Right.
And then there's a few in Nova Scotia and PEI and Newfoundland and Labrador.
Right. But then there's 5 boards of directors?
No, we have one board of directors. Our service area is from Sussex through St. Stephen.
Correct, okay.
With
And
one board of
includes Graham and
directors.
Ann, doesn't it?
Yes,
It
all
does.
of Charlotte County.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So, but there's only one board of directors for all of Big Brothers Big Sisters in New Brunswick?
No, just for our organization.
Oh, okay, just for
Big Brothers Big Sisters of St. John.
Okay.
My office and Lori Hall's office
Yeah.
are satellite offices
Okay.
from the St. John agency.
Yes.
Okay, and so then just to clarify, there's a coordinator in St. George, that's you, and there's a coordinator in St. Stephen.
Yes.
So I guess just to build on the question from the mayor, so the St. George or Eastern Charlotte and the St. Stephen municipality, I'm not calling it the correct name. What do they? Are you able to provide us with some information in terms of what they provide in terms of funding the coordinator's position?
We do all that. We being the Big Brothers Big Sisters, we have an office in St. John.
Right.
We raise the executive director.
Right.
The board of directors are responsible for the strategic plan and the fiscal management of the organization, which includes the fundraising.
Right.
Okay? So we raise the funds for all 11 staff that we have.
Across the region.
We work within Sussex to St. Stephen.
Right.
We're also working with volunteers, nonprofit organizations. We're going to community meetings in Sussex as well.
Right.
Because the need is great in the Sussex area for the programs and services that Big Brothers Big Sisters offers. And that's why we're meeting with you in St. Andrews, because of the need expressed in this community that's being expressed to our staff.
Right, so I'm just trying to understand if the other municipalities provide some financial support to the programs that are provided by Big Brothers Big Sisters in those communities?
Okay, that's a great question. And if Lori were here, she'd be able to explain all of that.
Okay.
Because she would have that direct answer for you.
Okay.
I cannot answer that
Okay.
directly. I can give you an overall
Sure.
percentage of the budget, but I can't give you that direct answer.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great.
Sorry.
That's okay, thanks.
Okay.
Any other member of council? Councilor Bennett?
Thank you very much for your presentation
You're
tonight. If you could answer that question in the future and maybe get it through to Paul or Chris.
Absolutely.
And then they
Sure.
can pass that on to us, because I
Yep.
would love to know that answer too. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Any other member? All right, well, thank you very much all
You're
for
very
being here.
welcome.
We appreciate it,
Thank you.
especially when you drew the 8th card. I don't know how
We
Paul
did.
decided this tonight, but we'll blame him.
That's quite all right, Paul. Don't mind.
We call that twice a week, Debbie. All right,
you.
so that concludes the presentations for this evening. We do, under introduction, consideration, passing of bylaws and motions, we do have the report on funding requests. Mr. Spear, was the goal to get some consensus from council tonight? Is there something that waits until we actually know what our budget?
Well, I think you'd want to wait till you see the bigger picture. These will be listed as part of the operating budget backup, I guess, if you will, so you can determine. But I think it's too early to start that process, Your Worship.
Yeah, it gives us a good foundation, though, for when we do have to make decisions. I will say, council, I know I'm a member of it, but I feel for you. We had 8 presentations, all very worthwhile organizations, worthwhile projects. But the reality is the ask that came in tonight would increase the mill rate by 2 cents per taxpayer. So these are things that most of them did not pay for before. Someone has to pay for it. It would cause about 2 cents on the tax base, almost equivalent. Is that correct, Mr. Spear, based on over 80,000?
Well, because of the new, about a penny and a half,
Yeah. So, council, I will say that we will talk about this further, and maybe staff, we can bring it up maybe at a staff-led session too. Again, it's not easy being a counselor, because all these organizations, again, they're worthwhile community organizations, but if you fund them all, that's a lot of money. And the bad thing is, if you argue against it, you look like you're arguing against their cause. So it's not easy to be in your chairs on this one. But making them come before us to give more explanation certainly makes sense. So thank you, Mr. Knopper. I think you led that, organizing it. That's 8 different community stakeholders that you had to round up. So was there anything else you want to add under that one, or is that it? Mr. Spear did ask me if we want to add anything else to this evening, and I said 8 presentations is enough. So even though he was really excited to get into his budget documents. So we aren't in as much of a crunch at budget time as well. That Saturday we'll revise probably. The reality is that we don't have the full information. There's only so far we can go in this process, so the province is holding us up on that. So we'll move on to nothing under new business. Everyone left. Is there anyone left online for question period? Nothing came in related to this evening, I don't believe. Councillors' comments, anything? Got a couple. We'll go Councillor Hurdle first.
Sorry, just had a question regarding the amount that would be looking for funding for this year. Do we have a total that we approved last year?
We do. I threw it at the mayor before. I think around 25 or 30, I think. No, it's more than that, because 15 plus 15,
Yeah,
40.
we had some
About
after
40.
the fact with Katie's Cove Bank.
We
right?
dipped out of the TALB, though, for some
Right.
of that, too, so it's, But we will provide, I have to go back and look at the notes, but there was a lot that came in after the fact that we borrowed from other areas.
Would it be too much to ask to maybe go back a few years so we can see how the requests have been increasing year over year? Is that a lot of work?
No,
yeah.
it's,
Okay, thank you.
it's something we usually track every year anyway.
Yeah, thanks.
You will see a rapid growth. Yeah.
Your Worship, sorry, there's just one thing. You should keep in mind, though, like, level of support and payments that we go across, and there's some groups that have more of a capacity to pay and looking for almost no fees versus others that are, charging significantly more for their users. And so I think when you're looking at that, look at the capacity of some of the users or what the users are having to pay compared to other users. And, I won't identify any groups, but it's just important that you dig down each of these and just kind of look at them what is its overall effect to the community, and what is it over effect to each of the users. And instead of, because sometimes councils get into a practice of supporting those that may be their favorite for a million reasons, and that's part of the democracy. But I think you've got to really look deeply into the needs, who they support, and the capacity of some of those that are providing or that are able to participate in what we can do for them.
Yeah, and I think the increase in request could be probably for multiple reasons. One is the times that we're in right now. More and more organizations are struggling. There is cuts by other levels of government, so you can kind of see some of these that you would normally think would go to another level of government starting to reach out to municipalities. But I also will say, as a council, we did increase the budget and we start opening the door for things that might not be primary services of a municipality. And other organizations do see that and they do come back. And I will say that there's some presentations this evening that there is other organizations similar that if you do give them funds, you can probably expect them to be sending in a request, if not this year, definitely next year, because there's a lot of organizations out there that need more funding to be sustainable. And again, all worthwhile organizations. It's just, again, I got to just say, it's tough to be in these chairs. Councillor Ware?
Yes, over my rather long lifetime, I've been involved in many organizations, you know, Boy Scouts and Cubs and minor hockey and AAA hockey at the provincial level. My wife was involved in Girl Guides, figure skating, every organization that a child could get involved in. I think we ended up being one of the leaders and that type of thing. But never during that 25 years that we were involved did we ever go to a municipal council and ask for money. It was the old-fashioned approach of, we're running this, we'll find the money by fundraising or running money-making events and that type of thing. And it's quite shocking, really, to see how many people show up looking at the handout. And I know I come from another generation that thinks entirely different, but people have to accept responsibility for the society in which we live. And it's disappearing. I can't believe it. It's unreal. No. But that's from somebody from another generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ware. Deputy Mayor Akaji.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Yesterday we had Truth and Reconciliation Day, and it went over very, very well. There were well over 300 people there. I'd like to thank the staff, Paul and Mervyn, who helped to organize it, and Judith Moses, who came, and the elder that we had there. He was fantastic. Doesn't like to be called the elder, excuse me, the drum keeper, because he brought his grandmother drum, and he had several drums. And they walked around Indian Point, and I think many people were amazed at what we do in this small little town. We had people from Ireland who had never experienced anything like that. And they came up to me afterwards and said how many years we've been doing this, and we explained, and we did that when we were talking about Truth and Reconciliation. But I would like to thank the support of the council and all of you that turned out and all the people that turned out. I think it was a great day, and it certainly brought to light the residential schools. Thanks, Lee, for the flowers, because they matched beautifully, and for the flags and whatnot that we had. So I really appreciate the support that we get for Truth and Reconciliation. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you for leading that initiative. I will say that when you think of the residential school children, kind of a concern I personally had is it felt like the first year it was a huge turnout, and then it felt like it was starting to go down. But then this year had a major resurgence, and people did reflect. And I will say that I do think your excellent work, but also the assistance of the town marketing the event, I think it did draw a lot of awareness to it. And I did see people not just from St. Andrews, but from all across the county, a lot from St. Stephen I talked to down there. And of course, I did see a number of councillors. So thank you for everything that you do. It is a very wonderful and important event. And I will say that those crosswalks certainly add to the, it's just an element to the walk that you know, it's just a great event, although a sad event in the same sense for a lot of people dealing with a lot of grief. So thank you again. Okay, anyone else? Okay, then. So I don't see any reason to go to closed session this evening, correct? So I'll be looking for a motion at, oh, yeah, oh, absolutely you can, Councillor Ware.
I just want to thank His Worship and Councillor Neal for the Mayor of the Day and the Fire Chief event. I think the Mayor did an excellent job of making it a lot of fun for the two children. They came in here somewhat hesitant, left here calling us all by our first name and giggling and laughing, and I congratulate you on getting them at the level we needed them to enjoy the event and to really understand what we do here. And the fact they come up with a donation, and finally they decided the Children's Hospital, and then they switched it to the local hospital, and they got a grasp on what a council is. But the most enjoyable thing was the smiles on their faces when they left here, and they were completely relaxed. There was no, we all called them on the first name basis. They started calling us on our first name basis, and it went very well.
I appreciate that. Mr. Knopper and town staff did a lot of work on preparing that, and the Mayor of the Day was grade 5 student Liam Bartlett, and the Fire Chief of the Day was grade 2 student Wilder Collier, and Kevin Terrio was with us the entire day. And yeah, just on the motions, it sounds like a lot, but the ice is here anyway, so they got a free ice rental, and Tim Hortons was nice enough to sponsor the donut, the Timbits and the cookies for them. And then of course they donated an extra $200 to the Radiothon for Charlotte County Cancer. So thank you, Councillor Neal, Councillor Bennett, and Councillor Ware. I know it was busy, not everyone could make it, but the fact that we had a mini quorum for them, it was definitely a good day. And yeah, it's certainly one of my favorite days, I guess, as being mayor, is to be able to spend time. Even last year, the girls that did it did an excellent job too. So it's a great program. And of course, to celebrate Municipalities Week, because let's be honest, no one other than us really gets excited over that, right? But in the school system, it's a big deal. All right, well, council, unless there's anyone else. All right, so I'll be looking at 8:52 p.m., a motion to adjourn. Wow. Going to give it to Councillor Bennett and seconded by Deputy Mayor Ackergy, because I always give her the adjournment. All in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. That is everybody, we're adjourned.